Hello and welcome to Fastener Connect. It is my pleasure to introduce the next presentation. But before I do, please note that we are recording the presentation to make it available to view on demand. We are inviting attendees to write questions into the chat function from where we will read them out at the end. But now I will hand over to Nikhil Venkateshan of oculavis GmbH, who will be presenting the remote age, our way into a new age. Over to you, Nikhil.
Thank you. So, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining in. First of all, thanks to Fastener Connect for setting it all up. In the next few minutes, we are going to be talking about topics which are going to be affecting all of us, or perhaps are already affecting all of us, irrespective of what industry we come from. I'm just going to use the help of a couple of slides to walk you through this presentation, and stay tuned for some interesting topics. So I'll just share my screen. So I guess you're seeing my screen now. I hope you're seeing the right screen. Let me just make sure. Okay, that looks good. So I'm Nikhil, part of oculavis. We are a German company based in the westernmost part of Germany, actually. And I'm myself personally from the south of India. Been living here in the western part of Germany for the last 5 years, and together with oculavis for a little under 2 years as a business development manager. So oculavis is a scale-up company. We used to be a startup until recently. We can call ourselves a scale-up now. And what we do is we make software for remote support. So the topic here is about the remote age, of how things are changing for the future, and how we need to also adapt to these changes and change the way we are thinking to be more resilient in the services and the production processes that various companies are doing. We'll see how we are able to allow the knowledge to travel and reduce our own travel. So when I say the word travel, it brings us to the beginning, or the most interesting part, or the most affected part for all of us is, I'm sure all of you are aware of these images, or somehow perhaps came across these situations in the news recently. This is also something that is personally affecting me, and that's why I want to start with this topic. Is these two regions are some of my favorite places that I myself personally travel to quite often. To begin with, on the left side, the image you see is from the Eifel region in the western part of Germany. It's practically half an hour from where I live currently. And that was the effect from the flood that happened earlier this year, actually. And on the right side is Jammu and Kashmir, which is a world famous region, high mountains in the Himalayas. And that's also another image from the flood that occurred earlier this year. So these kind of catastrophes have been on the rise. These are climate-based catastrophes, or caused by majorly because of effects from climate change. And all of us are being affected because of this. On one side, it is being affected because there's a lot of hit that the tourism is taking, and there's a lot of revenue loss for countries. But on the other side, you're also looking at the property and the life lost. So there's hundreds of millions of euros worth of damage, thousands of people displaced from their houses and their living areas, and and the historical regions completely destroyed because of climate disasters. So these are just two of the examples which have personally affected me, which I can quote as an example, as an after effect from climate change. When we are looking at the global picture in this situation, within the next 25 years, we are looking at over 200 million climate-related refugees globally. So this is actually a calculation by the World Bank. So we have to stop here and think that there is something that we are doing wrong, or there is something that we can do better and differently to reduce these kind of situations. So climate change is, of course, a very important topic. Everybody is already talking about, but we need to be more radical in the way we are thinking about this and make changes which are making short-term effects for all of us. That also brings us to another ongoing situation that we are facing so far. So I'm sure all of you have been affected by this. The entire globe has been affected by the COVID and the pandemic that's still ongoing. Actually, we have the fourth wave starting here in Germany, and we are looking eye to eye into another lockdown, which is 80% probability that we might be entering the lockdown in the next couple of weeks, despite high levels of vaccinations in Germany. This is again something that all of us have been affected by, and we were forced to change the way we think and the way we work. So work from home has been a norm for the last, let's say, almost 2 years now. Normally, a lot of people, or I would say the majority of the people, have been accepting to this, and they have been also liking it, including myself. Working from home has definitely been more advantageous for me in a lot of different levels. And a lot of companies are also looking into how this thing is changing and what are the things that are being affected by working from home and reducing your travel. Of course, in this case, we didn't reduce travel by choice, but we had no other choice. We were forced to not travel outside, or forced to not go to the office. So Fraunhofer IPT, or FIT in this case, Fraunhofer is basically a family of scientists, as we call it here in Germany. We are also from the Fraunhofer family. It's basically a large research institution. They carried out this detailed study earlier this year, where they saw that more than 80% of the employees were satisfied with the conditions of home office. So this gave a lot of people, including myself, the flexibility to plan the way I work, and stay more agile with the way I work and get things done on my schedule, and also try to see if I can manage a better work-life balance while doing that. Of course, it's 80% of the people who are happy. 20% were not happy because of various reasons. It could be a lot of different reasons, but some of the major reasons on one side were, of course, families with children. The homeschooling aspect changed the entire paradigm of how things work at home, and managing that together with managing a hectic job is, of course, challenging. So that's one of the main reasons where people didn't like it, the big part of the 20%. And perhaps the other largest part is for people who are having challenges with technology. So you all of a sudden were forced to start using a lot of different tools to collaborate with colleagues or to collaborate with your customers on day-to-day basis, etc. Some people had challenges also with that. But overall, the takeaway from this point I want to emphasize on is the fact that we are able to function quite well remotely. We are able to do a lot of things remotely, which we conventionally used to go over to the office to do. Of course, this is there is a distinction here between white collar and blue collar situations. So if you're in the production line, of course, you have to think about the fact that things can't get done remotely. But this is we are talking about the other part of the work from home, are the people who are basically working on their computer or in white collar situations. So when I say production, that brings us also a little bit more in context of this event today. Is we have a lot of companies who are producing fasteners and a lot of equipment in the fastener industry. So I'm sure you have large machines and you're using large machines as a part of your different processes. And maybe we also have companies here who are making those large machines. In your various parts of your production cycle, I'm sure all of you are aware of these concepts here, the 6 big losses in manufacturing. Oftentimes we have seen that we are always affected by one or the other of these. It might vary how much we are affected by which part of this circle here, based on what industry we are in. But overall, we are all affected by this when you're talking about manufacturing or production. Take your attention here through all of these circles here. You will immediately observe that about half of these problems that we are facing, or half of the causes because of these, are because of equipment related issues. So it could be equipment breakdowns, setups and adjustments in the equipment, or minor stops because of issues in the equipment. As you can see, these are things which are related to the machine. So there is oftentimes a lot of knowledge available locally for you to be able to resolve these issues and reduce these breakdowns. But I'm sure you will also be thinking of situations where you had to contact somebody outside the company or bring somebody from outside your organization as an expert, or it could be the machine supplier in a situation. It could be anybody from outside of your organization who had to come down locally to resolve these problems for you. So that brings us to the machine breakdown aspect. In a typical conventional situation in the manufacturing industry, these two large entities last year published a couple of different studies, and with just two countries in question here, which is the UK and the USA, we are seeing close to £1 trillion or dollars worth of losses due to machine breakdown. So there are different types of machine breakdowns, of course, taken into question here in the study, but unplanned breakdown is a big part of it. So anybody who is producing something is facing machine breakdowns which are unplanned, and you are most of the time reacting to this by bringing knowledge or experts from outside the company. So if we stop here for a moment and think, this is the loss in revenue we are looking at just from one aspect, from the machine breakdown aspect. There's a lot we can do here by making knowledge available locally, or by making knowledge available quickly for people to resolve these kind of issues. So that brings us to a typical situation that all of you might be familiar with. This is also one of the images from our institution when oculavis was founded, from Fraunhofer. So we have a complex piece of equipment here, which is actually from a Dutch machine maker. And you can see the two gentlemen using this machine were facing an issue with the machine, which they are trying to resolve with conventional methods. So the typical situation would look like they get on a video call, or they get on a normal telephone call and try to receive support from the machine manufacturer, in this case, from the service team of the machine manufacturer, and then in turn try to resolve the problem themselves. In most cases, in 80% of the cases, we would see that the problem wouldn't get resolved by themselves, and they would then have to ask somebody to come over from the manufacturer's side. Typically, we are looking at a timeline of anywhere between 2 to 5 working days before this machine is resolved. This was a research institution. We are able to live with the situation of having a machine out of functionality for a couple of days. But if you're talking about a production environment, then the consequences that this will cause would be very dire, with huge losses. So what we have to think about here is we have to change the way we are thinking when it comes to these kind of situations. Of course, a lot of the machines are also going online now. There's a lot of data analytics happening in the background. You're moving towards predictive maintenance. But that might be one part of the production industry. There's still a lot of places where conventional machines are being used. And when I say conventional machines, slightly older ones, which are not completely online, you don't have the methods or the capacities to do predictive maintenance on these machines. So you're more on the reactive maintenance side of things. So the conventional way of working has to change. We have to think, how can we enable people who are on the scene or in front of that machine to resolve the problem more effectively or in a better way? So of course, the side effect of it would be to not use consumer software. So when you're talking about complex machines, you're talking about huge liabilities in case of a problem. And if something has not been done in the right way that it's supposed to be done, because you don't have the right way to communicate in a consumer software, you don't have the precision to communicate, you're also looking at huge losses in terms of machine damage, or on the other side, you might be creating a lot of health hazards. So the user of the machine might do something that they're actually not supposed to, because they weren't able to understand the instruction being provided to them. By resolving these kind of problems remotely, using effective communication and precise communication in the modern tools, you're reducing your machine breakdown, which is natural, but you're also reducing a big part of your travel costs and time. So when you're not traveling, you're reducing costs on that, big advantage. And the next big advantage, which is also in context of our earlier discussion, is the reduction in emissions. So if a normal situation when somebody had to come down to fix this machine, they're driving down in a diesel truck or a diesel car and producing a couple of 100 kilograms of carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide exhaust because of that. And then they finally see here that it's actually a relatively simple problem, if communicated effectively, could have been solved by somebody remotely. So you're delivering skill where there is a shortage for it, without the carbon footprint that goes along with it. But the important point I want you to focus here is about the missing processes. So all of these things which I mentioned so far, it's not just going to happen by the use of one tool. the thing that we have to prepare as a foundation before using that tool is that we have to define these processes. So what we're seeing here is a lack in processes for solving problems remotely. So we have to change the way we think, change the way we approach problems, and establish these processes before we start even evaluating or using a tool or start looking at a technology, which will help us here. Because the technologies are versatile. There's a lot of different technologies and a lot of different tools you could use out there. But the most important part in success is in the definition of the process. So when I mentioned a lot of different technologies available out there, that brings us into another interesting topic, which I'm sure a lot of you are already aware of. To begin with is augmented reality technologies, or different levels of reality here. In this case, I'm going to take out virtual reality away from this discussion, because when we are talking about reacting to a machine problem, virtual reality is basically isolating you away from your existing reality around you. That's not really helping you. But with assisted reality and augmented reality, these are the kind of technologies which are really helping such situations. So in a conventional sense, you provide a manual to a machine user, so they will have all of the information available to them. But just imagine if you have provided a manual with a couple hundred pages and they have to find the problem that they are basically facing right now. It's quite time consuming and a cost intensive thing to do. It could also be that you've made this information available digitally in the form of an iPad or a file inside your telephone, mobile phone, or something like that. But again, if there is a 600-page PDF document that they have to sift through and find the relevant issue for them, it is still not an effective way of basically solving these problems, or making the information available to solve these problems. That's where these mixed reality or assisted reality devices come into picture. These are smart wearables, essentially, which are allowing you a hands-free operation. So basically, the operator of the machine is provided the information based on the context by using different QR codes or asset relationship systems inside the solutions. At the eye level. So they don't need to look away. They don't need to look at another device, which is taking their attention completely away from their surroundings. But they are basically looking into the screen, which is placed below their eye or in front of their eye, while they're still having a very high level of situational awareness. This will increase the effectiveness of finding and solving these problems to a high level. And to begin with, to continue with this point is that it's not just about making ready information available, but also making expert information available. So in this case, you can also be on a call with somebody, and the expert is able to guide you through in a very precise manner using annotations inside a call with one of these devices. So that also makes your communication very effective. In the past, we have also seen some people try out alternates or low cost alternates for wearables by using these kind of holders on smartphones. It actually looks funny, but it's actually also sometimes effective. So when we're talking about industrial situation, it's also important for us to know that these devices need to be really robust, they need to perform really well, and the fact that they need to be comfortable to use. So when you're talking about a production environment, it's loud, it might be dangerous, and it might be extreme in terms of temperature and humidity and a couple of other things that you have to take into consideration. And the fact that somebody has to wear this for the entire length of a shift. So all of these are the points that you have to take into consideration before you pick what hardware is going to be helping your particular production environment. Sorry about that. So yeah, this is about different devices available and how things are changing. So we have to keep in mind that we are moving towards wearables, and a lot of new different technologies are now available to us, including QR codes and NFC technologies. So we have to take into careful consideration what exactly is it that we are trying to solve as a problem, or what is the environment we are in while solving this problem, and very carefully pick the right hardware for us. So it might be a different wearable, or it might be just a smartphone, which might suffice for you, but you have to be careful in picking what suits your needs the most. So that brings us very quickly to a part of our software where we are helping a lot of companies do these kind of things. over here in this key visual, you can see there are different parts of oculavis share. As a solution, we have a modular software which will enable you in different kinds of situations. It might be in remote support, where the expert is basically able to guide somebody, or it might be in self-guidance tools like augmented reality-based documentation providing, or a step-by-step instruction module where you're able to enable somebody with a procedure, multimedia-based procedure, which they can use also in a device agnostic format. They could use it on a pair of smart glasses or in the smartphone or on a computer, etc. So this is about our solution. Get in touch with us if you want to know more about it. I will not focus more about the features and functions here, but again, come back to the processes. So it's a lot more than just a remote call that you have to consider. Please keep in mind that you have to set up these processes and drive these process-based analysis for seeing success in these kind of situations. So it has to come from top down. You have to be able to first analyze the different KPIs you're having right now and see if you can benchmark them against using a solution over a pilot project, and then define exactly what are the processes you want to carry out in this direction. With a quick short video, I will show you how some companies are doing this. This is one of our customer companies who is using different devices and part of our technology in supporting their customers. So just take a short view.
Unscheduled breakdowns, repairs, or maintenance work can often lead to costly downtimes. The waiting time for a service technician is usually much longer than the actual troubleshooting time. It is much more efficient to carry out repairs immediately without the need of an additional service technician from the manufacturer. Customers of SMA Solar Technology are already benefiting from this digital support for repairs with the Virtual Support app after a service training. Customers first download the app from your device's app store. To start the application, the technician scans the marker on the inverter with a smartphone or tablet. The Visual Support app visualizes information about the components, their positions, and combines the associated documentation, such as circuit diagrams or service information, in one digital platform. Industrial-grade augmented reality technology is provided by oculavis. If a component is defective, the technician carries out the repair independently using video or step-by-step instructions. A functional test completes the work. If further technical support is required, technicians and SMA experts connect with AR-powered video calls using a smartphone, tablet, or smart glasses. Augmented reality overlays enable the SMA expert to offer precise instructions to the technician on site. Screenshots or video recordings document valuable knowledge and can be transferred to other applications. SMA successfully deploys the virtual and remote support app and inspires its customers worldwide with a sustainable, digital, and customer-oriented service. These innovative solutions save valuable time and costs of on-site operations, minimize downtimes, and thus increase the profitability of PV systems.
So, back to here. So yeah, I'm sure that 2-minute clip tickled your imagination of seeing how different companies might be using this. We also have a couple of other business cases where you can see companies like Trumpf laser machines. They were able to see a huge increase in their remote fix rates. So 25% of the time, they didn't even need to send somebody to fix the problem, which is a considerable increase or in performance and efficiency of their operations after sales. We also have some non-conventional examples, which is probably interesting. We found it very interesting is customers are also thinking about in offshore cases. So typically, Boskalis used to fly somebody out with a helicopter when somebody's facing an issue on one of their ships. They have a fleet of 700 ships and dredging vessels. And now they've basically equipped all of their vessels with a pair of smart glasses. And they were able to realize the business case and the ROI in under 3 months, basically, because of course also the high cost attached to their business model. So we have a lot of companies who we are doing this with, more than 200 companies. I'm sure you also identify a lot of these here on the slide. If you are interested in any specific of the use cases from a specific company, get in touch with us. But overall, I would like to summarize. The idea of this session was that we have to basically change the way we think, and not always travel where there is not where there is no necessity for it. We have to try and see if we can reduce travel, and while doing that, increase your remote processes and increase your machine availability, and of course reduce your carbon emissions because of that. It's not only in breakdowns of machines that or solutions like this could be helpful. It could be in remote acceptance situations, or remote testing or audits or anything like that, where anywhere where knowledge has to travel, basically, you have a specific use case for softwares like these. So think about it, where exactly in your business where you could see a potential for something like this, where you are able to reduce your carbon footprint and leave a better planet behind for the future generations, while also increasing your effectiveness and efficiency and increasing your revenue, perhaps. At the end, this is actually something interesting, off topic, but something interesting might be for all of you. This is Jonas Deichmann. He's technically known as the modern Forrest Gump, or the real Forrest Gump. He's basically running 120 Ironman laps around the world, covering over 40,000 kilometers. And doing 400 kilometers of swimming and 5,000 kilometers of running and 35,000 kilometers of bicycling around the world. So he is actually delivering a talk at our in-house conference all about remote, which is upcoming. He's talking about the significance of being carbon neutral and carbon sensitive with all of the activities we do. And he has a very inspiring story to tell us about his background. Feel free to join our session here, or join just this session or our entire conference just by clicking on the website. And you will also see how different companies are doing different things remotely in their businesses. With that, thanks a lot for your attention. If you have any specific questions with respect to what you saw, or any specific notes you want to discuss with me, feel free to contact me on this information here. You can also just scan the QR code and you will receive all my information. And I look forward to the exchange. Thank you. If you have any questions right now, yeah.
Yeah, we had a few questions coming in. You mentioned AR in your introduction. How do you see the augmented reality technology developing in the future?
That's actually interesting. Augmented reality has been around for a while now. It's just that we are finding new and new use cases for it. But I showed you some examples on the slide, but for the future, when you're looking at it, it could be that we are able to integrate machine data into augmented reality. So when you're looking at a specific machine or an asset through an AR device, for example, using our solution, you're able to visualize live data from the machine. So before you actually have a breakdown in the machine, you're able to see what's happening inside the machine and perhaps move to a more proactive maintenance. I mean, that's one of the examples where augmented reality, especially in the production industry, could be very useful. So those are the kind of features we are working on in research projects, and we will also be releasing them as a part of our productive solution.
Thank you. Next question. How have you overcome the challenges of a traditionally slow to opt industry?
That's again also something interesting. When we are looking at traditionally slow, we also mean there's a huge aspect of change management involved there. So it's not just, as I mentioned earlier, not just about 1 or 2 video calls and solving some problem remotely in 1 or 2 situations with a call, but it's about changing the processes. So at that point, we will get deep in with the company, try to understand their existing ways of operations, and bring a change in the human aspect of things there. So we have to basically get an acceptance to new technologies before we drop a lot of new features on them. Smartphones is a good start. We have a lot of companies where smartphones were the starting point for them, because it's not a new piece of technology that they're bringing in. Everybody has one in their pocket. So we were able to manage the change in a smooth manner. But again, it's a very subjective question. There's a lot of different methodologies we can adopt, but it's mainly pertaining to change management.
Thank you very much. That marks the end of this presentation. Thank you very much to our presenter and to all of you for watching. Goodbye.
Thank you.